Hello and welcome to this 1 month review of the Nike SuperRep Cycle shoes. So if you watched our SBD cleat install video, you maybe saw a different pair of shoes. Those ones were not mine, but if you're interested in that video, we'll make sure to link it at the top here. So before we jump into it, I know that talking hands are probably not the most interesting, so I'll try to make sure to put in some sweet B-roll footage, some scanning and whatnot of these cycle shoes. I know they're very vibrant, but I want to make sure to try to give a enthusiast perspective. In other tutorials, I've stated how I am in the fitness industry, so I have been an instructor, and so that perspective might be different than someone else's that just bought the shoes, getting into indoor cycling. So I want to try to give that perspective for this review. So 1 month of having these shoes, what am I thinking? What do the reviews say? What do the positive reviews say? And then ultimately give my feedback on these Nike SuperRep Cycle shoes. Let's start with the negative reviews. So what did they say? I'm going to hit 4 different common negative reviews that I saw when looking up these shoes. So I searched on Google, I saw the bigger suppliers, how many reviews they had, and I read a few before purchasing them, because if you're going to get them, you're looking to spend around $125 on them. So I actually grabbed a couple of those screenshots, which we'll throw up on there. So the first one, longevity. A couple of them stated that they didn't last as long after 1 month or even one or a couple rides. They broke on them or busted on them. This being a 1 month review, obviously that hasn't happened. And I would say that minimum, since I've had these, I've rode 2 times a week, but maximum 4 times. So I'm not an everyday rider, but I do use them quite a bit in terms of how the longevity of how long I've had them. 1 month, like I said, a little over 1 month. But in terms of their being able to last, I would say they still look relatively new. There is a couple scuff marks, but those are small. They're not big, and ultimately I think they look pretty solid still. You look at the bottom, I take pretty good care of my shoes. I don't wear them around. It's pretty hard to wear them around, but you could see that not really much difference in 4 or 5 weeks of wearing them than the day that I unpacked them. The next one, and this one's actually pretty interesting for me, and I might bring a little bit of the fitness instructor perspective into this, or even an athlete perspective into this, but too much flex and not enough support. So with doing a 1 month review and trying to be an enthusiast perspective, I also wanted to get a good perspective on them in terms of comparing them to other shoes. So I do know other cycling instructors. I reached out to them, and to be honest, and this might be weird in this time of days as this is being recorded, but I also went and tried on a pair at a local sporting goods store because I wanted to hear and feel what people were saying in terms of them not being stiff enough. So when I originally bought these, I watched a couple of videos, and some of the individuals that were outdoor cycling enthusiasts or mountain bikers, I could see how being stiff can be a good characteristic for them. But for somebody that is new, somebody that is just getting into cycling and wants to make it a positive habit for them, I can actually see that more flex is good for them. So something that I'll touch on later on in my feedback is that I've worn a good amount of cleats in general. Baseball cleats, soccer cleats, football cleats, different types of track and field cleats. And the ones that fit for me, being an athlete, that fit well, were the ones that I had enough flex in them. And so that stiffness that some individuals talked about, I can see in certain areas, like I said, where that can be a good thing, but for indoor cycling enthusiasts, I would actually think that the flex is actually good. And so this next one, broke first time using them. I want to start with this one by saying where I found this review. So when I went to Google, and looked for the reviews on these. I clicked on the 1-star reviews. This was one of those. So obviously we're doing a 1-month review, so that is not applicable for me and for this review. But in reading them and seeing that the plastic part down here is what they talked about that broke for them, I have not had any issues with those. And just the other night before recording this, I actually went down, took off my shoes, turned them over, and I just wanted to feel the SBD cleat and see how it felt in there, not knowing I was going to be recording this. And it was still pretty sturdy in there, didn't feel any type of issues with it. So that one has not been an issue for me. This last one, the sizing of it, I don't know if that's quite a negative review or a negative comment about it. I actually did not get a half size up. That's the commonality of it, is that some people recommend getting a half size up. I did not. I just got a flat 10. I wear a 10 US and I got a 10, and they feel great for me. They don't feel too tight. They feel like they fit well for me. So that's one that, if you are one of those individuals that is typically getting a half size up in some shoes, I know that my wife, she has different half size shoes that, depending upon who makes them, I wear a lot of Nike cleats, Nike shoes, and 10 has been pretty solid for me. So I was actually happy that that was not the issue for me. So let's move on to the positive reviews. What did the positive reviews say? Breathable. So that's one that is actually pretty interesting, because that kind of feeds into one of the negative ones we talked about with the too much flex and not enough support. So the breathability here, I think that actually plays into the flexibility, because this is not a solid material. On Amazon, if you go look, you'll see some shoes that are all this material, and I like it for the design of it. It looks great, and with the type of rides that I do, 45 minutes, an hour long, it's great. I don't feel like my feet are burning up or anything of that nature, so I could see that being a benefit for some. It just depends on how long you're riding, all those kinds of things. But breathable, I think that's another positive for these. Comfort, piggybacking off of one of the things I said previously, that I think that these are actually stiff for the different types of cleats that I've worn. I know I need to stay with the shoes, because the interchangeable of the word cleat there, but the comfort of them, I think they're stiff, but I think they're comfortable. When I went to the sporting goods store, tried on a pair of shoes just so I can feel with that stiffness that people talk about, it was noticeable. I'll say, can I see how that can be a benefit for some? Definitely. So that kind of goes also into the next one, that they were light. The weight of them, they're light. So these, compared to the others, it then has to do with the material too, how they're designed, the material, and all that kind of stuff. They're light pair. In my opinion, if you are an avid cycling enthusiast, or you want to get into it, you want something like that. In some of the reviews I talk about efficiency, the light shoes, you're not going to have to be carrying that little bit of weight. Is it going to be super noticeable? No, but the fact that these are lighter than other shoes out there, I do think that is a positive and can be a benefit for someone just getting into cycling. So let's get into my feedback now. I have two things to kind of go over quickly, and I think that these are positives as well, and also why I would recommend these shoes. So I've touched already that I've worn an assortment of sporting cleats, baseball, football, different types of track and field cleats, or spikes as they call them. And the stiffer cleat, if that is an upgrade, in my opinion, I don't see how that benefits for someone. For somebody being new, and I did actually read a review how somebody said that they twisted their ankle because they weren't stiff enough. I actually can't see how that is the shoe's fault. A more stiff shoe, the example that I immediately thought of was with like snowboarding shoes, that they're so stiff that you can't really move in them. So I would actually see something being more flexible, that you could actually move your foot quicker or get better placement on the foot, because already you're uneven with your clip-ins at the bottom. It's an uneven surface, so having a little more flexibility might be a benefit for you in that aspect. But I think that these cleats are good for even a beginner. And when you look at the price, if you just scan through Amazon, you'll see some that start at 50, 70, 90, and like I said before at the beginning, 125 is what you're looking to spend to get these. I got these for my wife off of Nike.com, and they came quickly, in my opinion, and so far we've both enjoyed them, and it is a solid shoe in my opinion. So the last thing that I want to touch on is what I look for in a shoe, a training shoe or a cleat, a sporting cleat, is I will always look at this part of a shoe and this part. So what I've experienced with some shoes, some training shoes, is that when this part is mesh, that wears out very quickly. If anybody remembers the Nike Frees, like when they first came out, that it was all this mesh material, but they were super light. That was the big thing about it. They were so light, almost feels like you're barefoot running, but there was all this mesh. And if you were really into running or sports and you wore those would bust out quickly. I remember I busted out one really quickly and I returned them, got a new pair. But ever since then, I've been very cautious about what I look for in a shoe. And is this material here strong enough that when your foot, your toes are pushing against it, is it going to wear out and bust out of it quickly? And I would say that it's solid. This feels like a plastic here. And those are things that I would say are a positive of it, and that when I look at the negative reviews that were said, broke, not too much flex, not enough support, longevity, this design here is something that I would say is a good, and I would buy that, and that is part of why. So another thing with the breathable design, for the breathable cleats, the design, they look very sleek, they look nice. Some of the other ones that I've seen on Amazon, they're more of all one color. I like that style. I think these have a very nice style, and as you can see, they're pretty flashy, which is sometimes my style. And it's great that these shoes, you feel good about having them. You feel like it makes you want to ride further in them because you got them, you feel comfortable, all those kinds of things. So this is the 1 month review of the Nike SuperRep Cycle shoes. Bottom line, I think they're a thumbs up. If you're a fan of Nike, feel confident buying them. I've done a good amount of research before I bought them, and then making this review to go out there because I want to make sure that it's something solid for everybody that listens. So thank you very much for tuning in for this. If you liked it, you thought it was useful for you, hit that thumbs up for us. Leave a comment too if you've had them, if you didn't like them, or anything like that. Start a discussion, help others out with it, and we will see you on the next one.